Good morning, everybody. We've had a really interesting overview given by my friend Sam, and now I guess we're going to do some deep diving on some of the specific areas, and my area is going to be the social responsibility area. So of the quote that was presented earlier from this unnamed organization that I have a feeling is somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, to the part in there that talks about how do you partner to have manufacturing being done responsibly. So I've sort of subtitled my section of the presentation as Best Practices and Solutions for Managing a Complex, Fragmented Global Supply Chain. Let's start with the best practices and sort of ask ourselves, given the scenario that Sam so correctly described, you've got this fragmented supply chain, you've got processes happening in different countries, not just counties, that speak different languages, have different cultures, have different laws. How do you go about trying to even make sense of whether or not your product is being made responsibly? And the first part of that answer is you really have to go in with your eyes open. This is the modern information age, and so it is really incumbent upon those of you, at whatever level you are at. I mean, this would obviously apply for the brand who is running the risk of having their brand name tainted by unsavory, irresponsible manufacturing practices, but also by the buyer, the agent, the manufacturer. I mean, whichever stage you're in at the supply chain, you need to make sure you're going with your eyes open with regards to the rest of the chain below you. What that means is you need to know as much as you can about the facilities where production is occurring. So at a very basic level, one of the consequences of this global fragmented complex supply chain has been the rise of the audit industry, the social audit industry in my particular context. You've got to get a sense of what the practices are in the facilities that are spinning your yarn, that are dyeing it, that are then going on to cut and sew or finishing and packing. These could all be happening, as I said, in different countries, so you've got to get some sense of what's going on. When you go looking for that information, what is it that you should look for? Now, there's obviously a lot of things you're going to look for on the quality side, and I know we'll hear from other speakers and about the chemistry and tensile strength, all that good stuff. As I said, I'm concentrating on the social responsibility side. So when I go look at a factory, what I look for is this factory approaching social compliance in a systemic way? Do they have management systems in place that address these issues on a day-to-day basis? Or are we looking at a facility that's simply approaching problems ad hoc? Oh my God, we got a problem here, let's fix it. Oh, we got a problem there, let's fix that. You don't want to be in that kind of a factory. You want to be in a factory that's got a system in place that is set up to anticipate problems and hopefully solve them before they happen. You're never going to catch all the problems, but if you have that kind of approach, at least you can mitigate and you can do a better sense of planning. So you want to make sure that you're in factories that you get this clear sense that management is treating social compliance, responsible production as a systemic, everyday function, not just a we'll deal with the problem when it comes up. One way to check for that is to see whether you're getting commitment from the top. When you're talking to the factory owner, when you're talking to the GM, are you getting a sense that this person considers compliance to be important? Because believe me, if they do not, then the folks that are actually tasked with doing the job are not going to consider it important either. It's just basic human nature. In any organization, at any level, we pay the most attention to whatever it is that we think our boss considers important. So you need to see, when you're looking at these factories, are you comfortable with the commitment level at the top of the organization? And then you've got to sort of do a deeper dive. You go into these factories and they all talk a good game, but are they able to back it up? Oh, they say, yeah, we've got management systems, we've got policies, we've got procedures. Well, let me have a look at them. Because if all the policies and procedures are up here, then that's not going to do you very much good. It's not going to be sustainable. It's not going to be maintained over an ongoing period. So you want to make sure there's support and documentation. And finally, and possibly most importantly, is this all centered around the employee? Are we continuously educating the employees with regards to safety issues, for example? You all know very well that this is an extremely high turnover industry as far as workers go. The global average for a basic cut and sew plant is about 30% worker turnover, meaning that your typical garment factory has a whole new workforce every 3 years. In countries like Bangladesh, that's actually even higher. We're looking at about an 8% turnover per month. Your typical Bangladeshi factory has a whole new workforce every year. Are these workers being trained appropriately? When they come in, do they know where the exits are? Do they know how to handle the equipment? Do they know what to do in the event of an emergency? You need to satisfy yourself that the factories in your supply chain are approaching this the right way. And for all this, training is key. You got to make sure that they're putting in proper training efforts in their organizations. So let's continue with the best practices piece and talk a little bit about the audit thing I mentioned at the top of my presentation. We've come to a point where audits are not enough. Even the most progressive of approaches to auditing will not suffice if that is all you're doing. Social compliance is a two-way street now. You've got to be able to engage with these organizations at all levels. You got to be able to understand the practical challenges they face as manufacturers, as suppliers. Now, they are dealing with some of the same things you're dealing at your level: deadlines, personnel issues, strikes, or natural disasters in their countries. And you need to be consistent in your message. One of the challenges we're finding is that to this day, brands that go in, buyers that go in, have a disconnect between the sourcing folks and the compliance folks. Sourcing folks saying we need this by this time with this parameters, and compliance folks saying, well, you got to do that within these parameters, and they don't often work together. So you got to make sure that you have no disconnect internally. Fundamentally, it's about building partnerships, establishing relationships, working together towards improving continuously, because there really is no such thing as a perfect factory, right? You're never going to find that, so you got to work together, and that again involves ongoing training and education. So, what are the solutions? 2 key lessons learned from the past decade. The solutions have to involve education and have to involve collaboration. As we said, compliance is a two-way street, and it is a street that has to focus on training and education of workers. Which brings me to the part of WRAP as a solution. We are an independent, objective, nonprofit team of global social compliance experts dedicated to promoting safe, lawful, humane, and ethical manufacturing around the world through our certification program and our training programs. I'm going to skip this slide. It'll be in the presentations made available later. It just tells you a little bit about the organization. You know, I would be remiss as the CEO not to put a pitch for the company. So here it is. You can learn a little bit more about it. What makes us part of the solution? How can we help you? We take a management systems approach to social compliance and sustainability. Our whole point is to engage with the facilities, to build relationships so that where they fall short, you know, we can follow up with them, provide them the tools they need, the guidance they need to be able to obtain the levels that are required. And because we recognize that education is essential, we have a whole slew of training offerings that hopefully address some of the very important needs that are out there, including things like an internal auditor course, which helps factories take on a compliance approach within their organizations. And just because it's such a hot topic these days, well, maybe that's a bad choice of words, we have a very effective fire safety training program that we've used over the last couple of years to train over 2,200 people. And one of the key features of the program is that all our training is always done in the local language, wherever it is. We have offices around the world. We have trainers that speak the local language. We provide that in their local language. And it's always a practical approach. Fire safety is not just about what to do when there's a fire. Sure, you should know that, but it's more important to know how to prevent fires in the first place, and that's what we focus on. So in conclusion, one more pitch for WRAP. You know, WRAP is the standard, most often cited for social compliance certification in the textile sector. I did not make that up. That came from a 2010 UNIDO study called Making Private Standards Work for You. We were not involved in that study. We had no idea about it. We only found out after the fact, but you can bet I quote it every chance I get. We are a highly respected leader in the training arena, and most importantly, we are a responsive and effective partner for supply chain social compliance management. Thank you for your time. I'll be happy to answer questions later.